Good morning! It's Marcella, your favorite lady trucker, who's also an artist on her downtime. I am doing the artist way, and it is not even 4:30 in the morning. I am already at the yard. I've got empty pallets I need to get off my trailer before I move over to the docks. The reason I'm recording so early, and as you can see, it's dark out and it's a little dark in the cab. We are getting into the busy season. Been running really hard, working really long days, and I wanted to record this week's video before this day just completely gets away from me. So this week we are talking about chapter 8 in Julia Cameron's book about, her subtitle is A Course in Discovering and Recovering Your Creative Self. As you know, if you've been following, I am passionate about painting. That's my main creative expression when I'm not driving a truck. And I've done this course 2 other times, and this is now my 3rd adventure doing the artist way. I'm working on moving through my own creative blocks that still come up even when I'm actively creating. I'm still also pushing against resistance. So this is a great book, and this week we are talking about chapter 8, Recovering a Sense of Strength. This was a really interesting chapter. Julia talks basically about both the past and then the future as we're moving forward. And when she's referencing the past, she talks about our perceived creative failures when we created some work and it wasn't well received, or we didn't have sales, or maybe we submitted artwork to a call for entry and we didn't get accepted into the show. So she talks about it's how we reframe those experiences. We can either continue to think of them as failures and have them continue to block us, or we can reframe those experiences in our mind and we can see them as learning opportunities, stepping stones. Maybe some risk we took creatively didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, but we still learned something from the experience. And there's a great quote near the beginning of the chapter when she's talking about that, and she says, "The unmourned disappointment becomes the barrier that separates us from future dreams." So in the first half of this chapter, she talks about the importance of recognizing those past creative mistakes, so to speak, so that we can move past them. And then as we do start to move forward and we give ourselves permission to start creating again, and for me that might mean painting ugly paintings. I will often tell myself as I sit in front of the canvas, it's okay, I'm just going to paint, and I can paint ugly paintings and just enjoy the process. We talked about this last week. It's about the process, much like it's about the journey. It's not about the finished product. It's not about the destination. It's about the process, the journey, the steps that we take along the way. And as we move through chapter 8, Julia talks about essentially following our curiosities, which I found interesting. And I've referenced this book before, but Liz Gilbert wrote Big Magic, and that is sort of her creative manifesto. And as I do the artist way for the 3rd time, I'm seeing more and more similarities, some creative threads that run through both books. So if you aren't drawn to this book, The Artist Way, and again, I've said this before, I highly recommend Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. She's a fantastic writer, both her fiction and her nonfiction, and Big Magic is just amazing. As Julia gets into the nitty-gritty talking about following our curiosity, she talks about 2 things that often come up is we tell ourselves that we're too young or we're too old. We use age as an excuse for not following our creative curiosities, or we use that we don't have enough time. And she goes into detail discussing that in regards to the age-time resistance, that we will we become grandiose and dramatic in our thinking sometimes, and we'll say, in order for me to pursue my art, I need to, quit my day job, leave my spouse, move out of town. And thankfully, she says the opposite. It's actually, we need to take small baby steps. just carving out 15 minutes or an hour to let our inner child, our inner artist come out and play. We don't need to make these grandiose life changes in our life. And that's good to know because I like the steadiness of my day job. So that is chapter 8 in a nutshell, and I've begun to start to read chapter 9 for next week, Recovering a Sense of Compassion. And what I'm seeing is that it's going to build more in chapter 8, reframing those past perceived failures or disappointments, and building up our courage and our strength to move forward, to take creative risks again and follow those curiosities. So that is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, chapter 8 for you. Thank you for following along. I hope that you're also doing your best to do your morning pages and go on your weekly solo artist dates. I'm struggling with the pages just because I'm working such long days right now, but I have been successfully squeezing in an artist date, checking out some local art supply stores in my new town that I live in when I'm not driving a truck. So have a great weekend, everybody. Drink lots of coffee. And I'll catch you next time. In the meantime, live creatively.